Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we're going to have one of those kind of battles where your team doesn't really do what you want to, and how you can kind of still stay sane and hopefully be able to get through the end of it on top. Alright, so when I think about where heavy tanks should go on the Mines map, I was immediately very concerned in this game at the fact that I have two E100s in a platoon who are driving across out in the open, oblivious to all of the shells that the enemy have as they're approaching up onto the hill, and looking like they just want to go and chill at the back of the map in a top tier matchup against tier 9 tanks. Add to that the fact that there was a chieftain on the enemy team, and yes, I was very, very concerned about how this battle was going to go. Now, on Mines, it's a bit of an enigma, really. And firstly, I must interrupt my train of thought to say I really didn't want to fire that shell. But one thing that I've been questioning myself recently is if you have an opportunity to fire in an Italian auto-reloader or even in a vehicle like this, which is an auto-reloader in its sense in the ST2 with its double-barrel gun, I've been trying to make sure I don't try and think about like, oh, hold on to the shell because you might be able to get two. If you feel like you have a clean shot, you know what, just take it. Let me take a step back and talk about Mines. This map is usually a quest for the hill. Can I blame my E50s and my STB1 for not trying to fight for the top of the hill with the Char Future 4? Well, part of me wants to say yes, but also the other part of me wants to say no. You know what, E50s, they're more kind of sniping tanks than rushing vehicles, unless you do set them up in a way so that they have the engine power to be able to ram their opponents. And the STB1 as well, a tank which probably wants to end up using its gun depression. Now, unfortunately for us, our STB1 has already been caught out. Looks like he tried to contest the hill in this position, but just was unable to take the firepower that the enemy team had over towards the side. And in this kind of a situation, when the opponents claim the hill, this position starts to get a little bit weak. So, unfortunately for me, my team hasn't taken the hill. They've decided to go over towards the east. So we're going to have to try and do everything that we can from the center of the map. And that was an almighty hit into that Object 263. Yeah, pro tip for the Soviet tank destroyers out there, do not expose your lower plate to the ST2, otherwise you're not going to be leaving with very many of your hit points, right? 880 average damage in this tank, rolling super high for 947. And when you fire two shells, it's even easier to be able to track your opponents, and the tracking shot enables one of my vehicles from the back, maybe even that E100 I was counting out, or the Conqueror, to be able to finish off the 263 there. So maybe these E100s useful at the back of the map, right? Well, we'll have to take a look in the post-game stats to see what they've been able to achieve. Alright, so I'm engaging against an IS-3 here, and one of the things that you might notice is that I can actually kind of like fire up into the underflap of the IS-3 from this angle, and I actually have like what looks like an overmatch on the lower part. So that's why I'm trying to nail in those shells there against the IS-3. Unfortunately for me, while I'm trying to fire AP at his vehicle, and you can see right there is the overmatch, just waiting for it, and we hit it. Beautiful. Looks like the underflap of that vehicle has to be about 40 millimeters or less, otherwise we couldn't be able to do that. And while we're trying to penetrate our armor-piercing rounds against the 113, he is able to fire gold rounds against the cupola of the vehicle. And that one actually surprised me quite a lot. I really didn't expect to get penned by that IS-3 there. I'm wondering where the shell even went in. Maybe towards the turret ring, possibly? But in the first 3.5 minutes of this game, we've actually had a tremendous impact. We're up 2,500 spotting, 2,600 damage. And this is why I've just been really enjoying playing the ST2, at least over the last 6 months. Now, anyone who's watched my streams will know just how much I rate the IS-3 too, the predecessor tank that's opposite me. I think it's one of the best tier 9 heavies. It has the speed, it's got the turret armor, it's got the gun depression at 8 degrees, which is bizarre for such a well-armored tank, and it has the flexibility that it needs in its double barrel. And you can see what I'm trying to do right now is just bait this IS-3-2 into coming around the corner, and every time he does, he just manages to fall back. So what I'm trying to do is swing my gun towards the Moistion, hoping that the IS-3-2 thinks that I've got my turret towards him, but every time I do it, maybe I'm just not committing a little bit too much. Now, my equipment in this vehicle is vent, rotation device, and a turbo. Now, you might be thinking, what, you're not using vertical stabilizers in this vehicle? But the thing is that the vehicle's turret traverse dispersion is so darn good at 0.06 that I don't mind pumping up the turret traverse for a little bit of extra bloom. Now, the thing with this vehicle as well is its intro clip is so long at 5 seconds that what's really the point of having vertical stabilizers, because you have more than enough time to be able to aim between your shots. You've actually got an age, as we can see, between the two shells. So even if you decide to fire them pretty much on reload in 5 seconds, you've got more than enough time. I feel like vertical stabilizers are mandatory on really fast intro clip autoloaders like a TVP or a T57 Heavy, for example. But on a vehicle like this, I actually really rate the rotation device. Having that extra 10 to 15%, depending on what flavor of rotation device you use, on the traverse speed really helps out at not exposing your weak side armor, because that's what this tank does have. It's got a horrible side turret, and it's also got a really bad hull. And so, while you know what, maybe the rotation device isn't going to work out for everyone. For me, for my kind of like my preference to have that more nimble turret and the complete lack of dispersion kind of works out for me. The other argument you could make on an ST2 is just to drop the rotation device altogether and use the aiming device to enhance the accuracy. That's something that I personally do on my Object 7032 because that vehicle has horrendous base accuracy. And while the ST2 has bad base accuracy at 0.4, maybe it's something I'll test, see how I feel. But this vehicle, I'm not usually really sniping with it. I'm not usually really engaging at long range. And 0.4 accuracy is still definitely usable, even though we've certainly missed a few shots this game that maybe one of those could have gone in if we'd enhanced the accuracy of the vehicle a little bit. Alright, so the ST2 in this scenario, we've managed to still got both of our big boy E100s at the back of the map, still very healthy. Our Jagdpanzer E100 isn't so healthy, and I was worried that the enemy team right now was going to try and isolate this UDES as he's on very low health. And so I'm going to go and make my way to try and keep the enemy team honest. We see a standard B above us, and we see a Patton that's tried to sneak down the hill. Wrong time to do that, mate. The second big double barrel pen for 825 damage. This vehicle just has unprecedented stopping power in a quick moment like that. And if you can catch your opponents ill-prepared, it's way better to be able to prepare the double if you know you're going to land them both on that pattern. I guess what I did was a little bit chancy. Well, I've got 880 alpha damage. He had 825 hit points. So I was probably at least a 6 or a 7 time out of 10 chance to be able to destroy him in 2 shots. And even if I didn't, it's probably worth the risk anyway, because I can just pull back around the corner and hopefully one of the E100 tank destroyers on my team, and no, I'm not talking about the Jagdpanzer, will be able to finish him off. Talking about the Jagdpanzer, he manages to club that 113, showing you why it's so important to just sit around the base of the hill on mines. So if any of you are wondering, if you are a low tier tank and you're just really low on hit points, all you really have to do is just get close to the hill, use the 50-meter proxy distance, and then you'll be able to spot everybody who's trying to use the bushes over there. If you're trying to do that from the other side, then you can basically just go and sit in this corner, or alternatively maybe make your way in here, and you can completely destroy the enemy team's opportunities to... Finally got that IS-3. You can completely destroy the enemy team's opportunities to spot from the hill, and you can negate most of the advantage. But here's the thing. The hill isn't just an advantage for being able to get shots off from. It's also an advantage because you can literally drive 100 meters and then you can engage the whole of the rest of the map. So it kind of makes it so that you're unable to be able to get clean flanks, apart from the west. If my team is able to cut their way through the west of this map, the hill isn't actually so useful. The whole of this protection with regards to the water area here, and then also these rocks that we have towards the left, really do protect the western push from the eastern view range that the hill will have. So I'm not sure what I'm more surprised about, boys and girls. The fact that E100 has finally decided to leave the back of the map, or alternatively that the E100 has lost most of their hit points doing it, or as we're going to see in a second, if I'm more surprised that I'm bouncing off the Moisian's lower plate, or to cap it all off, what this E100 is about to do. So I'm thinking, oh great, finally I've got a little bit of support. This E100 is going to help me out. I got a heat round loaded and I'm getting pushed around the corner. Luckily for me, I finish off the Moisian and I'm trying to get back while I'm reloading against the Chieftain. I'm a little bit flustered there. Do you know what? When it was happening, it felt so much worse than in retrospect and watching it. When it was happening, I thought the world was ending. Because, you know, I'm in this game. I'm up to 7,500 combined. I'm fighting for my life against a chieftain, trying to keep my team in it, irrelevant of how they want to play the map. And then to have that E100, who I thought just camped at the back, did probably precious little, then just come and drive out in front of 3 vehicles and probably like push me out in front of the chieftain in the process. Oh, yeah, that would have been a frustrating one. Luckily for me, the enemies didn't quite jump on the opportunity to catch me while I was reloading, and we've managed to get a second lease of life. So what I'm going to do now is just question why our E50 and our Char are not pushing the Standard B. The Char Future 4 on my team says 4 rounds left. Or I guess he means HE, so high explosive rounds left. So I suggest to him, like, Char, can you play? Like, push the E50 and win? Stop wasting your ammo. To be fair to the Char says that I make 4,700 damage. And that's great. That's absolutely fantastic. But right now, in this situation, considering that we were up on double hit points, there's just the easiest opportunity to be able to make your way in through the West. And it's always interesting for me when players just sit in a position that has been working out for them in a game. Now he says, I make 4,711 damage. Like, I'm chuffed for you, Mr. Char. I'm really chuffed that you've managed to be able to clap out so much damage. But right now, it's about making your way in through the West, because otherwise this flanking play isn't going to work. I asked the team, please cap, and please go and cap Char. And to be fair to the Char, actually does it. Leaves that position, goes and starts to make a pressure play, because I know that if they go and sit in the cap, the chieftain, I don't think they're going to have clean shots in from up there. But even if they do, at least that means that maybe I'm going to find a way in to be able to isolate the T22 medium or the 114 instead. And talk about 114, comes around the corner, we finish him off. I need to just double check that. I don't want to spread false information. And it looks like this bush is mostly going to see the cap circle, apart from if they go and sit their way over towards the left. Maybe somebody could be able to make blind fires behind those bushes. And oh dear, we don't have time to talk about blind fires behind bushes because the T22 medium's trying to sneak up behind us. We put 1 shell into them. The E100 whiffs a shell, but we know that if he overangles, our high explosive anti-tank rounds are going to be able to finish them off, picking up our 5th kill of the game. And now that the Char and the E50 are putting pressure on the cap circle, and to be fair to this E100, he's being really useful for me here against this chieftain. So yeah, manages to distract the chieftain, allows me to come around the corner, and you know what? That is a fun, fitting moment when you manage to shut down a chieftain at the end of a game, which was this hard fought, boys and girls. That is a great feeling. And you know what? There's a couple of things we can learn from this replay. Number one, yeah, please, boys and girls, don't go and sit at the back of the map in your E100s. But also, secondly, don't judge like a book by its cover, right? Sure, the book at the beginning of the game was kind of just, should we say, gathering dust on the shelf. But at the end of the game, it's undoubtable that players who I thought were, should we say, not making the best plays, like the Char at the back of the map, really came through at the end. And to be fair to the Char, they did do their 4,700 damage, of which every single hit point was done at a distance of greater than 300 meters, yet they didn't get any damage upon detecting or damage upon tracking. Yeah, I guess it was left for the heavy tank that wants to get forwards to be able to do that. And while one of our E100s didn't exactly have much success with the 15 rounds they fired at the back of the map, alternatively, their platoon mate definitely did. They fired 30 rounds, hit 15, managed to pen 7 for their 3,400 damage, but that was more than enough for them to finish third on experience, and they really did come through good at the end of the game to enable me to shunt down the chieftain and claim the hill against the T22 medium. So this was a whopping amount of experience for the SD2, as you would expect when you do over 8,600 combined for our 6 kills, 1,544 base experience for our top gun, and because we didn't fire that many gold rounds this game, we actually make a sweet 32,000 credits profit. So to conclude, what is my advice for all of you out there when you do have situations where maybe your heavy tanks camp at the back of the map, maybe your light tanks won't spot, or your medium tanks want to play as tank destroyers, or alternatively your tank destroyers play as light tanks go in and manage to get them killed early on in the game? It's to look at the strengths of your tank and look whether you can still perform their roles adequately. Look, I'm not suggesting that you should try and rush over the field of Malinovka in your mouse, unless you really want to have fun about maybe 1 in 10 times. But in a situation like this, where we just played the all-round frontal heavy tank role for the ST2, providing the vision for those tank destroyers and the medium tanks and even the 100s at the back, sometimes you got to make yourself the glue to kind of keep that broken team together. And undoubtedly, when it works out, it can make for some of your most fulfilling wins. So anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, later on, it's time for the Tech Tree Showcase live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, considering that Wargaming have announced new top of the tree tanks and that the Leopard 1 is going to be top of the tree on Tuesday, there's no better time to feature it during the Tech Tree Showcase today. So come along if you want to see the glass cannon, super accurate German medium tanks as I take them out onto the battlefield and see whether being the best sniper is enough to also win your games. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.